At my bridal shower, my Emile gave me a cleaning kit. "You'll need it," she smirked. "He's used to a certain standard." Everyone laughed. My husband said, "It's just her way of welcoming you." 5 years later, I opened my own housekeeping business and declined her membership application. She called me that night furious. I said, "You were right. I didn't need that kit. It built my empire." When Greg proposed to me after just 6 months of dating, I thought I'd won the lottery. He was steady, funny without trying too hard, always kind even when life got messy. I grew up in a small apartment with a mom who worked 2 jobs just to keep us fed, so to be with someone like Greg, someone who made life feel easier, meant more than I could put into words. I only had one problem: his mother. Marla was the type of woman who ironed her jeans and labeled the shelves inside her fridge. At first, I thought she was just particular. Some people are. But when I showed up at her house for Thanksgiving and she handed me a paper plate instead of the fine china the rest of the family got, I knew. She didn't like me. Greg brushed it off. "That's just her way," he kept saying. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe a lot of things. When it came time for my bridal shower, I tried to set the tone. I helped pick the colors. Soft pinks and whites. Light snacks. Minimal fuss. It was hosted at Greg's aunt's house. A place that looked like it was ripped straight out of a Pottery Barn catalog. Everything smelled like vanilla and lemon polish. Every corner was staged for Instagram. When I walked in wearing my light blue sundress, carrying a homemade fruit tart because I couldn't afford anything fancier, I felt the stares. The women, Greg's aunts, cousins, family, friends, they all looked me up and down. I tried not to let it bother me. I smiled, shook hands, laughed when appropriate. The gifts started piling up in a corner, wrapped in silver and gold paper. When it was time to open them, I sat in the middle of the room, everyone forming a semicircle around me like I was on display. The first few presents were normal: bath towels, a blender, a cookbook. Then I got to Marla's. It was huge, heavy, wrapped in obnoxiously bright paper. I tore into it, expecting maybe some cookware or something for the kitchen. Instead, I found a giant plastic tub filled with cleaning supplies. Rubber gloves, scrub brushes, bleach, ammonia, dusting cloths, toilet bowl cleaner, even a laminated cleaning schedule. Marla stood up and said loudly, "You'll need it. He's used to a certain standard." Laughter exploded around the room. Not nervous laughter, real laughter. The kind that sticks to your skin like grease. I smiled. I made myself smile, because what else could I do? Greg looked uncomfortable but tried to smooth it over. "She's just being funny," he said later, when we were alone. "That's just how she jokes." I nodded. I didn't want to fight on the night of my bridal shower. But something inside me cracked that day. Not because of the gift. Not because of the humiliation. Because I realized something. They didn't think I was good enough. The first year of marriage was harder than I ever expected. I worked retail at a big box store, pulling long shifts for barely above minimum wage. Greg had a decent job, but we weren't rich by any stretch. Marla visited almost every week. She'd run her finger along the top of the fridge. Open drawers she had no business opening. "Greg likes his socks rolled a certain way," she'd say with that fake smile voice. One day, I found a passive-aggressive note taped to the inside of our pantry door. "You missed a spot." Greg told me to let it go. "It's just her way," he said again and again. But after a while, I stopped believing him. It wasn't her way. It was a message. You're not good enough. You'll never be good enough. One night after Marla dropped by and made a big show of sniffing the air and saying, "Smells like someone forgot to mop," I sat at our tiny kitchen table and cried. I cried harder than I had in a long time. I wasn't crying because of the cleaning. I was crying because I realized I was letting these people define my worth. And that's when it hit me. If they thought cleaning made someone better or worse, fine. I'd become the best damn cleaner they'd ever seen. But on my own terms. I wiped my face, pulled out a notebook, and started brainstorming. That night, I decided to start a cleaning business. I started with flyers. Taped them to laundromats, coffee shops, church bulletin boards. I made a Facebook page. At first, it was slow. I cleaned a friend's apartment. Then her sister's. Word got out. $20 for a full deep clean. I showed up early. Stayed late. I cleaned like my life depended on it. Because, in a way, it did. Greg supported me in theory, but he didn't do much to help. He thought it was cute. The same way you might think a kid selling lemonade is cute. But I didn't care. I saw the bigger picture. Within a year, I had regular clients. Within 2, I raised my prices. I reinvested every dollar back into my business. Better supplies, better equipment. Year 3, I hired my first 2 employees, both single moms like me, hungry for steady work. By year 4, I had a fleet of 8 cleaners and a wait list a mile long. I opened a real office in a strip mall across town, Sparrow Housekeeping and Management Services.
Clean.
Professional. Better rates, better service, better everything. We were voted best cleaning service in Wichita 2 years running. Then, the cherry on top, one afternoon, my office manager handed me an intake form. "Hey," she said, laughing. "Look who applied for a deluxe membership package." I looked. It was Marla. Marla. Apparently, she was having trouble keeping up with her massive 2-story house now that her arthritis was flaring up. She needed weekly service. She needed us. We sent her a standard rejection email. "At this time, we are unable to accept your application for services. Thank you for considering Sparrow Housekeeping."
Simple.
Professional.
Cold.
Marla called my personal phone that night. She didn't even say hello. "How dare you reject me? After all I've done for you. After everything I've put up with. I'm family." I listened, letting her wear herself out. When she finally paused, I said, real calm, real steady, "You were right, Marla. I did need that cleaning kit. It built my empire." And then I hung up. I blocked her number. I went to bed that night smiling for the first time in years. After I hung up on Marla that night, I thought that would be it.
Done.
Finally free. But I should have known better. Women like Marla don't lose quietly. About a week later, Greg came home from work looking pissed off. He threw his keys on the counter harder than normal and said, "You need to call my mom." I didn't even look up from the paperwork I was finishing. "No, I don't." He stood there, arms crossed, breathing heavy like a bull ready to charge. "She's humiliated," he said. "She's telling the whole family you're some bitter gold digger who thinks she's too good for us now." I laughed, bitter. "She's humiliated?" I said. "What about me, Greg? Remember the bridal shower? The years of her nitpicking? The way she treated me like dirt? She's lucky all she got was a polite rejection email." Greg slammed his hand down on the counter. Louder than necessary. "That's my mother," he shouted. "And I'm your wife," I said, standing up. "Or does that not matter to you?" He didn't answer right away. Just stood there, jaw tight. I saw it all plain as day. Greg wasn't mad that I rejected her. He was mad because it messed with the neat little image he had in his head, his perfect family, his perfect life, no mess. And I was the mess now in his eyes. Things between Greg and me started rotting from the inside out. Small things at first. He stopped asking about my day. Stopped helping around the house. Started sleeping on the edge of the bed like he couldn't wait to get away from me. I threw myself deeper into my business. Booked bigger clients. Hired more employees. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. And that only seemed to make Greg resent me more. He never said it out loud, but I could see it in the way he looked at me, like he didn't recognize me anymore. About 3 months after I rejected Marla's application, Greg didn't come home one night. No call. No text. I stayed up until 3 a.m. staring at the front door like an idiot. When he finally stumbled in, he smelled like cheap beer and even cheaper perfume. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. He sat down on the couch, head in his hands, and muttered, "I don't know who you are anymore." I stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "That makes 2 of us," I said. A week later, I found out through a friend that Marla was telling everyone Greg should come home. meaning back to her house. Back to Mommy's perfect little world. It all made sense. I wasn't just fighting Marla. I was fighting Greg's whole damn idea of who he thought I should be. The quiet, obedient wife. The one who stayed small. One night, Greg and I had it out. It was ugly. Yelling.
Crying.
Throwing words around like knives. You changed, he shouted. You didn't marry a doormat, I shot back. At the end of it, he grabbed a duffel bag and walked out. He didn't even look back. For the first time in years, my house was silent. No snide comments. No passive-aggressive bullshit.
Just me.
And for once, the silence didn't feel lonely. It felt like freedom. I poured myself a glass of cheap wine, sat on my couch, and made a list. Not of chores. Not of errands. A list of what I wanted out of my life. For me. Because if there's one thing Marla taught me, it's that you can either let people crush you, or you can let them fuel you. And I chose the second. For a little while after Greg left, things got quiet. Almost too quiet. I worked. I expanded Sparrow housekeeping even more, adding specialty services, hiring an operations manager. I made enough to move into a nicer rental across town. A place with big windows and hardwood floors and a tiny fenced yard for the dog I always wanted but Greg didn't have time for. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine. I figured Greg and Marla would stew in their own bitterness and leave me alone. I figured wrong. It started with bad online reviews. 1 star. No comment, or fake complaints about theft and unprofessional staff. Then angry emails. Anonymous, but easy to trace back if you knew where to look. Then came the worst one. A report filed with the Better Business Bureau, accusing my company of fraud. It didn't take long for my lawyer to trace it all back to Marla and to Greg. Turns out, after moving back in with his mommy, Greg decided to join the smear campaign. I guess he thought if he couldn't hurt me in the marriage, he'd hurt what I built after it. At first, I was pissed. Like, white hot, throw a chair through a window pissed. But after a few days, the anger turned into something else, resolve. They wanted a war?
Fine.
I'd fight. But not like them. Not dirty. Not stupid. I gathered every scrap of evidence, emails, IP addresses, screenshots, timelines. I sat down with my lawyer and filed a cease and desist against both of them. But I didn't stop there. I called a meeting with my whole team. We revamped everything. Updated our website, added even tighter contracts, redid all our certifications. We rolled out loyalty programs, referral bonuses, customer appreciation packages. We made ourselves lawsuit-proof, smear-proof, bulletproof. And then I started running ads. Big, bold ads. Locally owned. Women-led. 5-star service. Right in the parts of town Marla and her golf club friends haunted. The community responded fast. Old clients defended us publicly. New clients flooded in. My revenue tripled in 6 months. While Marla and Greg sat in her aging, crumbling house, watching as everything they tried to tear down grew bigger, stronger, and shinier than ever before. But it wasn't over yet. Because one morning, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. Messy. From Marla. Inside was a photo of Greg, standing with his arm around a woman I didn't recognize. No note. No explanation. Just the photo. And across the bottom, in Marla's spidery handwriting, it said, "You're replaceable." I sat at my kitchen counter, holding that photo, and for the first time in a long time, I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was sad. Pathetic, really. It wasn't about Greg.
It wasn't even about me.
It was about her. Her need to control. Her fear of being irrelevant. Her desperation to drag everyone down into her misery. And I realized something. You can't win a war against someone who's already lost. But I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. Because if Marla and Greg thought they could just move on like nothing happened, they were in for a rude awakening. After I got Marla's letter with a picture of Greg and his new girlfriend, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there thinking. And the longer I sat, the clearer everything became. They wanted a war? They got one. The first thing I did was simple. I posted a full, public post on my business page. Professional, polished, but sharp like a knife under velvet. Over the past year, Sparrow Housekeeping has faced harassment and false claims from individuals trying to tear down what we have built. We are proud to announce that after legal action and internal audits, no wrongdoing was found. We stand by our service, our clients, and our employees. Thank you to everyone who continues to support local businesses against personal attacks. No names. No direct accusations. But in a town like Wichita, where everybody knows everybody, they didn't need names. The comments exploded. People knew. People remembered Marla from church, from the golf club, from the PDA. Stories came out. Little stories, but they added up. Stories about how she treated waitstaff, how she embarrassed volunteers at charity events, how she used her connections to push people around. The shine wore off fast. By the end of the month, Marla was asked to step down from 2 different committees she loved to brag about. Greg didn't fare much better. Turns out his new girlfriend? Not so shiny either. She had a habit of borrowing money from her past boyfriends. When Greg's paycheck started disappearing faster than usual, he realized it too late. By the time he found out, she was already gone. So was half his savings. One evening, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick it up. It was Greg. His voice was low, broken. He told me he missed me, that he made a mistake, that he was sorry for letting his mom poison our marriage. I was stupid, he said. I should have backed you up. I should have seen what she was doing. I let him talk. I let him spill all the apologies he should have said 5 years ago. And when he was done, I said very calmly, "You're right. You were stupid. And now you get to live with it." Then I hung up, blocked the number. Again. A few weeks later, I heard through the grapevine that Marla was trying to sell her house. The one she lorded over everyone for years. But the market wasn't great. And she couldn't afford the upkeep anymore. She was drowning under her own pride. Her friends ghosted her. Her neighbors avoided her. She ended up moving into a cramped senior condo on the outskirts of town. No parties. No fancy teas. Just a 1-bedroom with yellowing blinds and a leaky faucet. A kingdom reduced to dust. As for me, I kept building. I opened a second location in Topeka. Hired 2 more managers. I bought my own little house, small, but paid for in cash. A white house with a red door and a patch of sunflowers by the mailbox. And sometimes when I passed the old neighborhoods where I used to feel so small, I smiled. Because they were right about one thing. I wasn't housewife material. I was something bigger. Something stronger. But not perfect. Because looking back, I realized I stayed too long with people who didn't value me. I waited too long for them to change. I let their opinions define me for a while. That was my mistake. And I owned it. But I didn't let it break me. I used it. I built something out of it. Something they could never touch.